is Will Smith and Chris Rock, the Academy Awards, and there's a lot of perspectives. You got the media, you got the news, you got celebrities, you got comedians. Everybody is giving their perspective.
Right.
So what do you think everybody is missing, my sister? Based off why you gave me this call.
So when I first saw the video, it was hard for me to watch the first time, right? And then if people are like me, there was a second play, and I really couldn't watch the second play. And I went to watch it the second time because at first I thought it was a stunt, right? I was like, oh yeah, this is part of the skit. And then the second time I watched it, I saw, oh wait, this isn't a skit. This is real. And so immediately when it hit me that this was real, I felt pain.
Yes.
I instantly felt this pain. And I was like, oh, that's it. I can't watch this again. And ironically, I felt pain for Will and Jada. And I felt it differently for Chris Rock. It wasn't for, I think the reasons why maybe some people might have felt it, but I instantly thought about what pain are they going through?
Correct.
To have all of this inspired, in front of the world. This could have took place behind closed doors, but for this to happen in front of the world, this speaks to some deep-rooted pain. And that's
Right.
What came up for me was, what are they going through? And I felt bad that the world had to watch it.
Jada, I love you. G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it. All right? That was a nice one. Okay. I'm out here. Richard. Oh, wow. Wow. Will Smith. Okay. That was a greatest night in the history of television. Okay.
Yes. Which points to sometimes closet pain can be displayed for the public to see, because how you cope privately, we can mask that, and a lot of times you only need to trigger to do what you do privately.
Right.
So
absolutely.
I think, what people are amazed at is what a lot of people who suffer from different forms of mental illness, especially that's a celebrity, they're not human,
Right.
They all have brains, you know what I'm saying? But everybody cope differently. So I just think people will intensify it because it was the Academy Awards. But and as well as I know, Dr. Guy, mental illness is mental illness. It doesn't discriminate whether you do it or you flow in the private, coping, how you cope privately or how you cope publicly, So I just think all of it points to some breakdown of mental illness.
Absolutely. I definitely think that watching it, I felt that. I was like, what is it that his family is going through? What, as a couple, are they going through? Because I don't think that slap was about a bad joke, right? That timing was off, inappropriate, whatever it may have been. That slap was about some other issues that have been festering, that are unresolved, some deep-rooted pain. And we know that there's mental health issues on both sides for Jada and Will. They've both talked about it. They've talked about their struggles. And so we know that once you've had or dealt with mental health issues, they don't go away permanently, right?
Correct.
Any event can re-trigger and put you right back in the same place you were when you were at your worst. And
That's right.
That's kind of what triggered for me when I saw that. I was like, oh, What is he going through?
And you know what, Dr. Guy, as a clinician and a psychotherapist, I look at behavior like people like the movie The Matrix. You know, if you ever seen The Matrix, you see all those, codes. When I see behaviors as codes. Like in my mind, I'm saying, okay, what's up with Chris Rock? What's up with our society? Because I think at times our society say because a person is, creating a joke that people need to take a joke. And the social norms of our society say he was just telling the joke. But you say that to the young lady who got abused by her mother, who, just say if a young lady was called names by her mother and the mother said, well, I was just joking. But when do the line end as a joke versus abuse? Because that's what Will Smith said in his acceptance speech, that he can't take the abuse anymore. And a lot of times we look at the abuse as the present pain. And like you said, memories are memories. You can't erase them.
Right.
So what I did, Dr. Guy, I began to go by this philosophy as a clinician. Dr. Guy, if the behavior is a mystery, tap into the history. You feel me?
Absolutely.
What led Chris Rock to target Will Smith and Jada when they've been going through, regardless if they're in public or not?
Absolutely.
Abuse is still abuse. What led Will Smith to lose all consciousness? And he's Mr. Consciousness. Just Google his name and you will see self-discipline. What made him operate out of character. So when I began to do some research on both of them, Dr. Guy, I don't think a lot of people know that Chris Rock just suffered from a divorce. And
I didn't know that.
If you Google his name, he was interviewed and was communicating his mental illness that he's dealing with.
It reminds me of the bully, right?
Yes.
So it's the projection. So the person who is now a bully typically becomes the bully because somebody was bullying him. But everything about that behavior is them projecting onto somebody else. But I think as a society, we've become desensitized to the things that we say to people, period, not comedians, people. Right?
That's right.
I think social media has allowed people to just to feel like they can say whatever they want to without having any accountability of how it impacts another person, right? Like you can go on somebody's social media page and because you don't like anything about their page, you can say, oh, I hope you die, or I hope you do this, not knowing what this person is struggling with in that moment, that those very words that you're saying could be the catalyst for this person to take their life. But you're so callous about it, like, oh, that's my own personal belief. It is your own personal belief. But as a society, I think that's what social media has done, is desensitized us to the feelings of other people and how it impacts their mental health.
And not just that, Dr. Guy, it's social media, but it's our society as whole. Because it's our society that deems what's a social norm, what's accepted, what's not accepted. If you're a comedian, it's accepted that you can just go throughout the audience and start talking about people. And it was just a joke, but you said something powerful, because you do know Everybody Hate Chris, which that popular series, it was based off of his life story. Chris was bullied.
Being bullied.
Yeah, and if you look at what you just said, if you don't process those memories of abuse, the worst thing can happen when a human don't deal with their mental illness but become successful. Now their success become a mask to their mental illness. So I think regardless of what people say, he should have took a joke, but what if it was abuse for Will Smith? And what if, because Chris Rock is used to being bullied growing up, he don't have that filter, that mental filter, to know who to pick on. So I thought both of them was like associated with a true reality. You know what I'm saying?
I can see that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I look at them both as victims. And I'm sorry, go.
When you said victims, what I began to see was when he said the joke, Will chuckled, he, and then he looked at Jada. She didn't chuckle. She rolled her eyes, right? And so it was almost as if he was checked, like, oh, wait, that wasn't funny, right? Like, her pain is now my pain. And so it seemed to create a different response. And I'm not saying that either way was right, that he should have laughed or shouldn't have, but definitely what he saw on his wife's face triggered a different response in how he moved.
And remember, if the behavior is a mystery, tap into the history. So why did he do it? And why did he make it such a big deal? If you go on Table Talk, when Will and Jada was talking, Jada said Will was emotionally unavailable. Will built that big old house. And Will even said it was time where Jada cried 30 days or 40 days straight. I don't remember the amount of time.
Right.
But during the tears of when she was releasing, Will Smith was emotionally unavailable.
He was detached. Yeah.
So what if he's trying so bad not to be emotionally unavailable, and he was laughing, and maybe he thought it was funny, but when he saw how the pain, it could have pointed to all the times she cried, and I didn't know how to respond.
Right.
So I think Will was trying to be attentive to his wife, but he may have meant well with his message, but it's called the M&M principles. You may have a good message, but your method is off.
Absolutely. You know, one of the things that, and you probably hear this too when you're practice, when doing couples counseling, and even sometimes with an individual counseling with women, is that what I will often hear is women will report not feeling safe,
correct,
and protected.
That's it.
I'm not talking about like my man can't put hands on somebody.
Correct.
Right? I'm saying they don't feel safe and protected emotionally because their husbands are either emotionally detached or their husbands don't tune in to what it is that they're feeling, right?
Correct.
And so Jada spoke to Will being detached emotionally from her. And so that definitely could have been Will's way of showing up and protecting her, right?
Yeah, but he overdone it. Yeah, because you can't protect someone else and don't protect yourself. You know, my love only follows the way you love yourself. And I think Will took this codependency, I'm responsible for everybody. I am the protector for everybody. But a lot of times what I've learned through the study of pain language, the fixer always attract a broken piece. And that is the person that's always trying to fix somebody. But then if you examine the fixer, they broken themselves. So a lot of time people say, well, he was just defending her honor. But Dr. God, you can't defend your husband or your wife honor when you dishonor yourself.
I agree. But see, if you don't know what you don't know.
Correct.
Right? Like for him, it was, I think that this is the right thing to do. Because it was such a quick response. It was oh wait. Right? Like almost as if I have made a mistake, let me quickly correct it. And this is the only thing I know how in the moment to now correct it. Right?
And Dr. God, the way he corrected, it was more primitive than rational.
I agree with that. I absolutely agree. Like, I am never going to say that violence is the answer, right?
Correct.
Because I don't think that that was the answer. But when we talk about mental health, right? Like, we know it's real. And let me correct it, because not mental health, because everybody has a mental health. Mental health or mental health distress mental illness is real, because there's
That's
a
right.
difference. And I think people forget that, right? Like when we start talking about mental health, people think that we're always talking about mental distress or mental illness.
That's
But
right.
mental health is what everybody has. And if you don't take care of yourself, it can lead to mental distress or a
That's right.
mental illness. And
That's
so
right.
in Will and Jada case, we know that they have struggled with some mental health illness in the past, right?
That's
Like
right.
Will said that there was a point when he was suicidal. Jada
That's
said
right.
that there was a point in which she was suicidal. And so they both have spoken to that. Like where they are now, we have no idea. But that behavior last night definitely indicates that they're probably not in the healthiest place,
And,
either of
and,
them.
and but if you look at it, success can mask your reality.
Oh, absolutely.
Like for instance, if you look at Chris Rock, he grew up being bullied. And a lot of, like you said, a lot of times the people who grew up being bullied become a bully. But when they
Mhm.
become successful, society give them that pass. If you look at Jada, Jada said ultimately she grew up. She didn't talk about her father a lot, but she talked about her mother being on drugs. Okay. And this fix-it mode that she had with Tupac, you know, really wanted to fix him. Right. Then if you look at Will Smith's father was militant, really never validated and affirmed him. But then he said he was being interviewed a while back, and he said his mother was an extreme educator. Like Will would get punished when it came down to his English language, you know. And then when Will came to his mother and said, "This is my dream, this is my goal, I want to be a rapper," she responded with distress. And if you look at his speech, Will was vulnerable enough to communicate where his pain is coming from, because he talked about his mother in his pain. In his speech, he said, "I wish my mother could be here, but my mother chose to go to some event where she's knitting." That was him saying, "My mother wasn't available for me." And then if you look at, he did all that hard work with Venus and Serena, and they didn't really validate his hard work until they saw the movie. So if you look at Will Smith when he played Fresh Prince, and that powerful part of Will Smith when, you know, the father came and the father left. Do you remember that part? And he said, I did it this without him. I did this without him. That's how he really lives.
Showed up.
He's trying to prove that he can do what he can do. But the problem is, purpose should prove you and not pain. Because when you're driven by pain, you're still in the extreme. But this is the powerful thing he said. Why he just don't want me? What if Will try so hard to be so perfect that he married a woman that really just don't want him because you too extreme? What if Jada is saying, all my life things been unstable? What if Chris Rock is saying, man, it's just a joke? Because that's what he said. Listen to the behavior. He said it was just a joke. Are you that desensitized? Are you that disassociated to know that to you it's just a joke, but to him it was abuse? So I see it all. I see all their mental illnesses. You know, all of them seem like they suffer from some PTSD, some major depression disorder, some anxiety. And if you have a mental illness and if it goes untreated, you're going to see the manifestations like we did last night. So a lot of people are choosing sides, but nobody is talking about the brain.
Right.
Does that make sense, my sister?
Absolutely. And what's so interesting about it is that we've been seeing this cycle play out over and over. Like Will and Jada have been in the news how frequently, right? I think, unfortunately, the biggest one that I can remember now was the whole entanglement. What was it? Entanglement? Is that what she called it? But they have been in the news on other occasions, specifically related about their relationship. And so each time when it comes up, it's not necessarily they're talking about how great their relationship is. They're talking about the turmoil about their relationship. And it
Correct.
wasn't until Jada came out with Red Table Talk until people started seeing the inside workings of their relationship and how what happened is their early childhood experiences are playing out or started to play out in their adult relationships with each other.
That's
And
it.
so anybody who is like questioning, why am I having some of these struggles that I'm having in my relationship as an adult, look at Will and Jada. It wasn't until they started talking about their relationships as a child and with their caregivers that they began to understand the dynamics of what was happening to them in their adult relationship. Like, who was taking care of who was trying to, fix the other person, what was missing, all of those things. And so I think they're just repeating the cycle. And
But
because
it's
you
our
know something,
society, Dr. Guy. It's Will and Jada and Chris Rock. It's only a reflection of how our society do not really understand mental health. We look at mental health as crazy, and that's like saying if you have a physical disease, everything is cancer. That's what crazy do. It puts all mental illness in the same boat. So our society really don't understand the brain. It don't understand trauma response. It don't understand triggers. It don't understand mental illness. And a lot of time people say, well, Will was still acting in the character of Serena and I think it's Richard Williams. Is that that's
the
but
dad in the movie?
but I didn't see that. You know
I
who I
didn't see
saw?
that either. That didn't come to my mind at all. I was like, he wasn't in character. That was
Yeah.
his real life pain.
And you ain't never seen Richard publicly slap the hell out of somebody.
Right.
You know who I saw? My brother-in-law pulled it up. Do you not know that Will Smith's father was physically abusive?
Mm. You
So
saw that.
what if that was Will's father?
Mm.
Dr. God, what I want you to do, if you don't mind, go back and look at his speech. Because you would think the tears point to remorse. When the real tears.
No. Those tears didn't point to remorse to me.
What do you think they pointed to, my sister?
They did not point to remorse, because remorse would have said, I apologize to the person I pimp slapped. And he did not apologize to the person he pimp slapped. That's his
right.
remorse. He didn't say that.
So his tears really pointed to embarrassment. His tears really pointed to, hey, I just spit, and I hope y'all didn't see that. His tears pointed to his peers. I mean, his tears pointed to the embarrassment, not the fact that he was primitive. Because if you look past the pain when it was done, look at the after party. Will Smith was just, he acted as though nothing happened. Right. And that is the ability to disassociate. And I think that's what we saw last night.
No, embarrassment says, I go home, right?
Correct.
Like embarrassment and remorse, my speech looks very different. I apologize to everyone. Even though maybe I think he was wrong, I still apologize, because that's me being remorseful to everyone. And then embarrassment says, I take my narrow behind home because I don't want nobody to see me because I was so out of character. Shame on me. That's not what he showed up as after he gave that speech. At least that's not what I saw.
That's because there's many different phases of narcissism. Narcissism comes in many different, shapes and forms. He's the type of narcissist that he's so bad want to protect his image. It was about protecting his brand. And sometimes you can become the brand and you're less human. So to me, he had no empathy to who he really hurt. And he cried because he was trying to protect himself. So this is what I say to my family. And this is what I say to society. Who is the Will Smith in your life? Who suffered from a mental illness, but that became successful, and they hide their success behind their mental illness? Meaning, I have a mental illness, but here go my face, here go my success. Who is the Jada in your life that have been like Jada said before I even met Will Smith? I was in a broken place, and Will Smith said, "Well, who you dating?" She said, "Nobody." Then he said, "You're dating me now." Who starts a relationship like that? A broken person.
Right.
And look at Chris Rock. Who is the Chris Rock in your family? See, if Chris Rock was in school, he'll be a class clown and he'll be expelled. But because Chris Rock can make millions, we give him a pass. So what we're seeing different types of behavior displaying, and we looking at the name of the identity, but we're not associating with the behaviors. And at one particular time, Dr. Guy, I was like Will Smith. I was so into protecting my image to the point it was about my image and not about my wife or not about my family. And that was my own narcissistic behaviors, not wanting to be embarrassed. So I just think instead of us pointing the fingers at them, we need to understand that all three of them are suffering from some form of mental illness, and we need to learn how to identify instead of judge, if that makes sense.
It absolutely makes sense. But I mean, when you think about high achieving people, in order for you to reach that level, you probably take some hits to your mental health.
Correct.
Right? Like you struggle with some things along the way to achieve whatever that status is, whatever that career field is that you're in. And so I think a lot of people know the Will Smiths and in their lives. And so again, many of us, if it wasn't for us being in the mental health field, we would be that person.
That's right. We would reflect that same pain.
With a PhD, a JD, a MD, like you folks.
What do you mean, Dr. Guy? What do you mean when you say at times we put our mental health on hold to become successful? What do you mean by that?
Well, I think that our mental health takes a hit when we decide that I'm going to keep climbing to whatever the highest status is, because you got to make some sacrifices. And when you make sacrifices, that includes relationships, right? So if it's your marriage, sometimes you say, I love you, but I got to get this. And so like, I'm torn, but I'm gonna go ahead and still try to get this. And so now I'm depressed because my marriage is in the dump, but I'm closer to this goal over here. And so the sacrifice may also mean I don't see my kids. Oh, so now I'm a bad parent. And so that hurts. And so that puts another notch on my depression scale, but I'm still going over here, right? So that level of sacrifice that is required for you to kind of keep moving up that ladder, whatever it is of success, I think you do take a hit to your mental health. And if you're not smart enough to then intervene and say, oh, I got to do something, I got to take care of me,
That's
then
good.
you use these negative coping skills, right? So
Ooh,
then
that's
you
good.
find yourself drinking or using drugs or using sex. So I don't know successful people who ain't took a hit to their mental health. I just
Correct.
don't.
That's right. And what I've learned just, almost, turning 49, that a lot of the sacrifice I made was inappropriate sacrifice. Meaning at times I thought my wife was going to be okay. At times I said, well, I missed the game. Malachi ain't going to miss me. You know what I'm saying? And it made an impact on their lives and my life. And how I know you dropping knowledge, sister, listen to Will Smith's speech. He said, and I think this is so like delusional. He said, if you flow insanity, in order to achieve the impossible, you have to somehow dance with insanity. Now, on paper, that is like wow. But Will Smith, let me help you understand. Whenever you say insanity, Will Smith, you're saying the primitive part of your brain. That means you're going in flight, freeze, or fawn. That means you're living in your survivor mode. That means you only operate with raw emotion, not emotional reasoning. So insanity is surviving mode. And it's also when you don't have rational abilities. What Will Smith should say, my belief in myself, regardless of what everybody say, I have a true conviction in what I believe. And if I believe in myself, what people thought was impossible, my belief say possible. Because Dr. Guy, people don't even know us. I remember when I was over your home, if you don't mind me sharing, we both grew up with some form of dyslexia. People would know, because when you told me that, I said, Dr. Guy, girl, the way you say your syllables, I would never know that you struggle with dyslexia. You feel me?
I definitely, I talk about it because for some people, like kids, they get made fun of. Like, you can't spell cat, right? You said
Correct.
it's CTA, right? And you're just like, I know how to spell cat. And even today, I spell simple words wrong. And so I tell people, and I'm a professor. So if I'm doing a presentation, I'll go to the little board and I'll write letters on it. I'm like, look, so when I spell this word incorrectly, go grab that alphabet and make it correct, because this dyslexia is real.
Correct. So just think about it. It wasn't insanity that made us write a dissertation when
Right.
writing was a limitation, and the understanding of the English letters was a limitation. And that's what dyslexia is all about, not as how we see words and how we hear syllables. But if you look at it, we didn't become insane. We just used our brain. So I think when you have a person who suffer from a deep mental illness and they're not educated about their mental illness, they come up with these false scenarios and they really feel like they drop in truth when they are so far from the truth. So what I'm saying, if you look at two PhD scholars, we both have suffered from dyslexia. We both know what it is to be made fun of. But if you looked at it, Dr. Guy, you are the epitome of a boss lady. I remember when I first met you years ago, and just your dignity, just your confidence, and not saying that you're perfect, but Dr. Guy, you always been humble, you always been smart, and girl, you always walk and talk like a boss lady. And I can remember when I saw you for the first time at Hickory Trail, I'm like, that's my sister. But I saw you at a high level of achievement. And I said, well, Dr. Guy, I've been accepted to this online school and I'm having mind battles if I will be respected. Dr. Guy, with very few words, but you spoke in this Black man life. You said, Dr. Chism, what do you think? And what do you care if you'll be accepted? And Dr. Guy, I then pursue my PhD, and from phase to phase, you've been that Black sister speaking in my life along with my wife. I just think if we can speak in each other's lives and not tear each other down, we can cultivate mental health, healthy mental health in each other. So thank you, Dr. Guy, for being such a positive person in my life. And you're not perfect, but I'm gonna tell you, it was parts of my life where I didn't feel like I was smart enough to get a PhD. And when you told me, Moses, you're doing it for yourself, you're not doing it for people. So when I walk across that stage, I said a prayer for you. And I'm not just trying to put you on, blast. I'm just trying to give you your flowers to let you know I do appreciate you. And I think if we can learn how to lift each other up, instead of telling a joke to make people laugh, maybe we can bring the best out of people and not the mess out of people, if that makes sense.
I so appreciate that, because what was it, a couple of weeks ago, I watched Dr. Chism walk across the stage and
That's right.
get gooded. Like, when I tell you, I watched the whole graduation, and most people are like, graduations are boring. I don't like them. And I think they are boring. If you don't have anybody there that's graduating, they
That's
are
right.
definitely boring. But when you know somebody has put in the work, that
That's
they
it.
have been grinding from day one, I'm
That's
like,
right.
this, where he at? I can't wait till he walk across the stage, right? Like, and I was in Bora Bora on vacation, like, I'm watching this graduation.
That's
I'm
right.
not
I
gonna tune away.
appreciate you. And
Right?
it
Like,
felt so
that's how important
good.
it was for
It
me
felt
to
so
see
good
you walk
because my
across the
family
stage.
was not all able to be there. But when I saw the text, said, well, Moses, I'm watching, it felt good. So it's just, Dr. Guy, I appreciate who you've been in this field and what you are to me and what you have been. And I just hope that people can understand that mental illness and mental health is real.
It's real. I definitely hope that in the future, I'm going to be more cognizant and aware about my presence on social media, because People post everything and not always positive things. And so I'm definitely going to make a point of posting more things about mental health and just how does it impact us on a day-to-day basis, right? I think when sometimes we think about mental health, we think about the worst of the worst, like somebody committing suicide
That's
or
right.
somebody with OCD, like the extreme cases of it. But there are just some day-to-day things that
That's
prevent
right.
people from just functioning and doing the things that they need to do, and they just can't figure it out, or just the repetitive cycles of unhealthy relationships, right?
That's
Like
right. That's
I
right.
talk about you and Sonia and your relationships all the time, like, oh, like you guys are my favorite couple. When we talk about Black love, we need your picture right there.
I
But
appreciate it.
one of the reasons why some people struggle in their relationships isn't because there are no good men or there are no good women. They're just struggling with their own mental health issues and they don't know that, right? And so that trauma piece continues to resurface and it plays out like a broken record. And so I want us to talk more about that. I'm hoping that maybe you'll have some opportunities because people need to see a Black male clinician.
That's right.
Right. Like we know that you're out there, but a lot of people don't get to see you. They don't get to hear your perspective. Like Black women, we out here all the time. We talking, right? But I definitely think it makes a difference to be able to hear that voice from you, from your perspective.
And you're right, Dr. Cobb, but let me just let you know, you may have a lot of Black women that out there talking, but a lot of them, they talking the talk, but not walking the walk. And what I like about you, my sister, you don't just talk the talk, you walk the walk. So thank you for being a very significant energy in our Black community. And, you know, sometimes you're a product of who you are, because I know every part of our human growth and development, you've been there. I remember when we first started our practice, Chism, she really looked up to you. And let me tell y'all, social media, I'll be working with my wife, and my wife love her some Dr. God. And because I told Holly about Dr. God, my wife, we started our practice about 11 years ago, and I would make a diagnosis. Then Sonia said, wait a minute, I think we need to call Dr. God. She called Dr. God about 3 or 4 times. I'm like, hey, you ain't calling Dr. God no more. But just to let you know that, Dr. God, you're not just a strong Black woman. You have been consistent. You're a supervisor. You have had interns. So I'm happy that you are balanced therapist, because this is what's hurting our industry. We got a lot of people who are therapists, but they are imbalanced. So I will make time to do anything with you, my sister, because I am forever in your debt for believing in me. And remember, it wasn't insanity. It was a core belief. And if I can go to Will Smith, I would tell Will, you are good enough. You don't have to prove anything, because your reward was just before you. But because you was trying to prove yourself, you overcompensated and you messed up your night. If I could talk to Jada, I would tell Jada, honey, it's okay. You can't fix everybody. You couldn't fix your mama. Stop fixing people and develop some type of wholeness within your own broken soul. And if I can talk to Chris Rock, I would say, Chris, you remember when you was young and they was joking about you? Just remember and have discerning powers who to joke with and who not to joke with. And I would tell everybody who's giving their opinion, instead of you pointing the fingers at how somebody displayed their mental health, look at their mental health and examine your own behavior. Because we all have a little Jada Pinkett, a Chris Rock, and Will Smith in ourselves, if that makes sense.
And on that note, 2 things. 1, hurt people hurt other people consciously or unconsciously. We
That's
all
right.
know this. Like, that is a fact. So if you're that hurting person and you're hurting other people consciously or unconsciously, maybe it's time to get some help so that you can stop hurting other people. Second thing, I don't think I told you this, but I am now in the process of transitioning from my full-time full-time counseling over to full-time coaching.
Touchdown.
So I will be coaching clinicians who want to start their own private practice.
Wow.
So when you just said, when y'all started y'all practice and Mrs. Chism would call me and be like, what about this and what about that? I have been doing that for 15 years and I absolutely love it. And so I'm so excited to help people start and build their goals and their visions in this practice. So that's where I'm transitioning full time. So therapists, if y'all are listening and you want to learn how to start your private practice, the info is coming soon.
And not only the info, but the impartation as well as the patience. Because what I like about Dr. Guy, a lot of times y'all see her decked out with all them hats, but just like you see the way that she dressed, the way she loves you is just as delicate. Like the way she care about you. And I think, Dr. God, that's what God is doing for both of us. Because I was telling Chism, I'm ready to start training and teaching because we need to right the wrong when it come down to the mental health field. Because the mental health field have really messed up a lot of people. But I think God is shifting both of us to start training and teaching and getting the words out. If you want to be a healthy therapist or if you want to be a healthy life coach, you got a good man and you got a good woman that's out here ready to embrace. So Dr. Guy, we got to do it some more. You know, you my twin, you know what I'm saying? And I have a sister, her name is Felicia. I can't wait till you meet Felicia. She's my biological sister and she reminds me so much of you, but you are my twin. And so whenever you want to, like, you know, that super friend when you had the twins and they come together and activate and we turn into what we need to turn into. So just know, my sister, only thing you need to do is say the word and I will bend my schedule to be in the presence of Dr. God because you are the epitome of a good person, a powerful Black woman, but what I like, you're a good human. And that's what I'm trying to be better at myself, my sister. So y'all got a perspective from Dr. Guy and Dr. Chism. So tune in. You're gonna hear this more. You're gonna hear us come and dialogue over important issues so we can give you a clinical perspective so you can stop being judgmental and become more mental, if that makes sense.
I like that.
Finger snaps. Till we meet again, Dr. Guy's always been good. And we miss you guys. And we got some more of that bougie water for you too, my sister.
We'll be back for the bougie water.
You take it easy, Dr. Guy.
See you later.
All right, bye-bye. Are you sick and tired of being controlled by your negative emotions and negative thoughts? Are you tormented by memories that were recorded from your past or present events? Pain that has a hope around your heart and is keeping you from fulfilling your purpose in life. If you answer yes to any of these questions, then welcome to Innovative Center Counseling, where our goal is to help you find purpose beyond the pain.